Hello, hello. Waiting really quickly for Adam to join in. He is in Hawaii, so forgive the weird time schedule. There he is. Bring them on camera. Add. Are we doing it? Are we doing it? Hi, Jennifer. We're working on it. We're not. Look, there you are. Can I hear you? You're freezing up.
Hey, are we here now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I sure can. You pretty girl.
Hey.
I like that you're wearing a coconut.
Oh yeah, my pineapple and coconut is a fruit as well.
Hmm.
A coconut's a fruit as well, but not what I'm wearing.
Sure. Okay. I don't know things.
Dottie's in there. She's barking because she hears your voice. So she's like, "There's some dude outside."
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm wearing the earbuds. They're your earbuds though, so sorry.
Can you hear the wind chime? Is it super annoying? Let me know, Jennifer, if it's annoying,
No, can you
and
hear?
I'll do something. What, hun?
Can you hear the ocean? Can you hear the ocean? Is it super annoying?
No,
No.
no, it's not
Well,
annoying at
it's
all.
weird because I'm like,
Guys, thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate the
you ready to
feedback.
talk about conflict?
You know what is annoying
You ready
though?
to play about?
Your husband's on Hawaii,
Tell me
on
more.
Kona, and you're not. That's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Making money, girl. We're gonna be coming back. You should come
Yeah,
with me.
I would love to. So we
Cool.
have not, as of yet, introduced ourselves.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's do it.
let's do it. I'm Carrie.
And I am Adam, and we are some of the founders of Whole Life Entrepreneurship, and we'll be your host
And every
today
day.
uh, as we talk about conflict and conflict resolution, and what does that look like in your relationship, in your business, and in your life. In your life.
Yeah, so I wrote this week about conflict resolution. It may or may
Hmm.
not be too much information for you guys. This methodology that I wrote about was what we learned while we were on our training in New York City, and I really like it. It's actually meant to be workplace conflict resolution, but they do use this other side of it, which is successful conflict conversations. And
Hmm.
I think that it really can be applicable in every area of your life. So, Adam, really quickly, would you run down how you feel about the methodology and just talk a little bit about um, all of those steps and how you feel like that applies to real
Yep.
life?
So the training that we went through is all about staying focused on solving a business problem. So there's a time where this self-mediation is completely appropriate, but then there are times where whatever's going on in your life requires counseling or requires a lawsuit or requires all different kinds of things. And so it's important to go through these filters, right? And the filters for a relationship are basically, do you have two people? Yes. Or two or more people? Yeah, thruples, one time, right? Woo. If you've got a disagreement that is attached to some kind of emotion, right? And that there's a business problem. And so the way you went through and kind of defined a business problem for a family was that there is something not happening that keeps the family's gears moving, right? And so the same thing's true for a business. And by being focused on whatever that thing is, it allows you to set aside high emotion and anger and work on the thing that's important for your relationship, your family, your business, whatever.
Something that I realized this week after I wrote the piece, as I was kind of just reflecting through the week, is I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone, and they were divorced and had been for a while, and they had young kids together, and she was going on to say, oh, we're much better divorced. We're so much better divorced. And it made me think, well, that's because a lot of the emotionality is taken out of it. Hey, Julie. So it kind of made me think, if you do go through a divorce, then, and you still have to parent children together, then you basically do become business only.
And
So it kind of,
business partners.
it kind of made me realize, well, that that is kind of how it could apply before it becomes, go to the extreme of having to be a
Yeah,
divorcee.
sure. I guarantee if you're able to have conversations around the conflicts in your relationships, that you are going to have better relationships, unless you do it really poorly and you don't create psychological safety and you don't do all of these things that need to happen. Then those conversations are just going to make it end quicker, and it's probably a good thing. Honestly, burn the boats. It's done.
Well, what do you think about this concept that I introduced in the post, in the blog post, about having a conversation about a conversation, but then giving it a little bit of
Yep.
breathing room in between? How do you feel like that could apply in a real life couple kind of situation? Because I feel like you and I have to
Sure.
do that a lot because we fight so differently. You are a let's not
So,
talk about it, or talk about it a week later kind of person. And yeah, a runner. He's a runner. And I am a no, we must deal with this right now kind of person. And so we've really had to kind of find some common ground and do it a little bit your way and a little bit my way. I have really had to teach myself to back off, and it's really hard for me not to just chase you down and make you hash things out right then. And
yeah.
I think the same is true for you. Even if you're given a little bit of time, you still would love to give it more time.
Yeah. So here, I figured out, I dug
Okay.
a little deeper. So, in business, we call it the meeting before the meeting. Worst thing you can do in business is show up and, hey, what are we talking about? There's no agenda. Then you spend an hour and nothing gets done and everyone wastes time. Or worse, you begin to bring things in like rabbit holes and you go down trails and things go
Unproductive.
sideways. When you're talking, right. And so if you're in the middle of an emotional hormone dump, right? So we immediately kick our adrenaline off. Cortisol is killing it. It's like, oh, we're in fight or flight, and one of us is in fight and the other is in flight. Nothing good's going to happen. So what you do is you jump in the middle of that and you say, we're going to schedule a time. Maybe it's going to be a little bit later in the day. Maybe it's next week, whatever. But there's something goes on the calendar to have a conversation about a solid topic, right? Because if you have that conversation right then, and sometimes there is no choice, but best case scenario, you're able to push it down uh, to when you're not having that thing. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, the statistics they said is that once the cortisol dump happens, once the hormone dump happens, it can last anywhere from 26 minutes to
Right.
24 hours, right?
That's crazy to
Right?
me.
And if you don't have help, yeah, and so that means that you are not able to have a healthy conversation until that's out. Now, how do you do that, right? So the reason you kind of have the meeting before the meeting is that you honor the fact that people are going through that chemical dump. You set some expectations, you set some constraints, and you're like, this is what we're going to talk about. But if your significant other is really nice to you, or they're going to be able to help enact
Yeah.
dopamine hits, right? And so look at that hand, it's giant
I had to
hand.
turn you up. I couldn't hear you. I don't know if it's your ocean
Oh,
or
well, you missed
my
some
wind
solid
chime.
wisdom. Yeah, so where I was going with all that is that there are conciliatory gestures and things that the other person on the other side of the conversation can do that will provide an empathetic connection that will then release dopamine, which then counteracts the cortisol. So that kind of was around the way. And let me answer your question directly. You do the meeting before the meeting to make sure you set um, the rules for the conversation that you have to have that's hard. And while you're in that conversation, you take into account that there's a lot of biochemistry happening, and that the way I show up for you is going to directly impact how your biochemistry works, and vice versa.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. How do you feel about it being a full, like, 90 minutes?
Yeah, I
gonna
hate that
say that sounds
so
like a
much.
special kind of hell for you.
Yeah, but it makes sense, right? So the whole purpose is that you have the hypothesis that they shared with us, and I believe, is that there are 4 pressure points that happen normally that will automatically bring us to a conclusion of a conflict, right? One of them is fatigue. One of them is consularity, blah blah. Anyway, science. I don't know what they are, but there's 4 of them. And what she said is, don't worry about what they are. Just know they exist. And if you hang in there for 90 minutes, naturally your body is going to get fatigued. Your mind is going to lower defenses. And so, what's the quote about conflict isn't the problem? Lack of time talking about the conflict is the problem, or something like that.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because when I was a young girl and rode horses, if you had one that was particularly feisty, what you would do is lunge them in a round pen, run them without a saddle or anything on them in a circle
Mm-hmm.
to get some energy out, to burn some energy out, and then all of a sudden they're very compliant. Part of the idea of having
That's
this
how
90-minute plan is that exhaustion kicks in, and then people tend to be a little more willing to be flexible. Even you and I have, we have had a couple of knockdown drag outs where finally by the end of it we're like, oh, I'm so tired, fine, whatever. It's just like we wear each other down.
Yeah, but that's an important thing you just
It
said
is.
there. Whatever. All right, because the goal of the not for us to surrender. So part of conflict is it's got to be a win-win, right? So there's 2 different sides, right? So power play is when I am putting something out there that is more one-sided in benefit than the other. And so a successful conversation around conflict leads where both sides get value, not just one side get value. So if you say, oh, whatever, conflict's not done, because I've just wore you down and I have overpowered you, either through yelling or shame or just so many other tools, right? And you've decided to give up just so you don't have to endure it anymore. That is not cool.
Do you remember the conversation with your friend, was it Bill Sims and his wife? We did an interview with them months ago, and you can tell, I don't know her personally, but you could just tell she's a very mild-mannered person, very sweet. And they'd been married something like 20-something years or something. And he said that after several years of was it more than that? Wow. After several years of being married, and then them kind of hitting a wall in their relationship, he said, but you've been so fine for so long. And he finally realized that there was a difference between really trusting and resignation. You want to complete how the rest of that conversation went and explain what that meant to you?
Yeah, so there's the example he gave is in buying a car. When he goes out to buy a car, she wants no input. She doesn't want anything to do with it. And on one hand, that could be because she could be saying in her mind, he's just going to do what he wants. I ain't going to get my fun. So now she's just compliant to him. She's resigned to him, right? And the difference is when he goes out to buy a car and she doesn't want anything to do with it, it's because he knows so much more about cars than I do. He knows all the stuff. He's done all. I trust him to do it. So it's resignation and trust can look like the same thing, and it's really important in the middle of a conflict.
There are times when I really will defer to you because you really are the expert on whatever that thing may be. Parenting.
Well, yes.
Parenting.
Yes, I'm an expert at parenting.
Well, you've always said, because I was a
I
pediatric
am.
nurse, that I was the one who got to do all the baby stuff when they were babies. And it was fun. But, I mean, you still got in there and got your hands dirty. But you see what I'm saying?
Diapers.
You still were able to defer to me
Right.
because I was the one with the expertise in that particular arena. But there is definitely a difference between I'm following you, and we're following your life plan or your mission because I trust you and I want to support you and want to be part of that story. And it doesn't really matter what I say. He's going to do what he wants anyway. Yep. So I don't know if you all read the conversation in the post that I did earlier this week about, Adam and I still have this issue about exactly where we want our family mission to go. And it's always just back and forth. And maybe some of that is because we just haven't sat down and gone through a full round.
And here's the thing is that, WLE is all about the 3 C's: chill, communication, community. And the 3 C's happen inside the relationship, happen inside the business, but also happen within you. And so we have our own goals, we have our own missions, we have our own themes, we have our own identity. And so where we're struggling with is my mission, my themes, my goals are woo, and Carrie's are woo. And we're like, okay, how do we find the commonality between the two that will make us, be able to function together? Because I feel like we do so good tactically. Yeah. It's when we think strategically, and I basically live in strategic land and you live in tactical land. And we can very easily both resign to each other. Like, I just will let you decide anything in the moment, but I expect to control the future. That's not a way to live. I mean, it is. Well, it is a way to live.
I think that there's another side of power play. If you're not doing it in the moment, you might be doing it sort of passive aggressively. Okay, we'll see if that happens, kind of thing. You know what I mean? That doesn't solve
you do that
either. So, what about the hot buttons that we talked about? Yeah. We talked about on Thursday. We did something a little bit different. We did a poll about hot buttons.
Yeah, I'm fascinated.
It was really enlightening to see you guys struggle. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who struggled with picking just one hot button. So what about you, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, so I went in there and I picked my hot button, and I have to say that I feel like all of you are wrong because I was the only one who picked excessive details. Man, just shut up and do. I don't need to hear all of this stuff, which is really unhealthy because my wife is all about input and details and things like that. So in the middle of most conflicts, she defaults back into a whole bunch of data. Oh, I can't hear you. I'm tuning out. Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah. So, I really think hot buttons are a super.
I got you.
No, I can hear the ocean.
Oh, good.
Before, but
now you're here.
Is it super distracting?
To me? No, it's soothing.
That, details kill him. See, Adam just wants to wake up and magically have, like, the life fairy have come to wash his clothes and organize his life for him.
That's not true. That's not true. Be very, very careful because you're projecting like crazy. Don't say. So one of the things that Carrie hates is being told what to do. Like, you know what you should do? You should blah, 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 right? And then she's like, well, I'm going to do the exact opposite. When someone says, Adam feels this way, I'm like, well, it looks like I'm going to do the exact opposite of that.
Nothing drives you more crazy than me telling you how you feel.
Yeah, that's my number one hot button. If you come in and begin telling me how I feel, or you begin to say, you think da da da, I'm like, yeah. I tell you what, if I'm about to have a couple mimosas, and if I had them before, I would have said a cuss word, please, in the middle of all this, because it is a strong reaction to someone saying, you think this, you feel this, and this is why you did what you did. And I'm like, all right, I've checked out, because conversation's done.
So the other side of being in a conflict, when we're talking about ground rules, is when you're having this conversation before the conversation. We're setting some ground rules about, hey, we're just going to talk about this issue statement. I really think it's super important, and I'm concerned that it's going to affect things because of X, Y, and Z. It's super important. Here's our issue. Here are the rules. No power plays, which we talked about, and no walkaways. So, and no walkaways, which is the other thing, and I'm guilty of it too. Especially if you're really, really frustrated, or you're feeling really misunderstood or really unheard. There's a lot of fine, whatever, and you walk off. In the conflict conversation, that's kind of something that you would agree upon before you actually go into this to the conflict table. So, how do you feel about walkaways? I mean, I know you're well known as a runner.
That's right. I do distance running. I don't just run away from the problem. I run way far away from the problem. So here's the thing: if you are somebody who wants to run, if you are a get up and fine, whatever, and you've committed to not doing that over 90 minutes, the only way you stop is you remind yourself, and in that act of reminding yourself and staying present, it changes how everything works. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. It reminds me that I need to re-engage, and I typically come back in much more healthy. So think of it this way. Think of like a lawnmower trying to start. Sometimes the runner has to false run. I'm going to leave. No, I'm not. I'm not leaving. Okay, I'm finally ready to talk, right? And so the person on the other side of the table should expect that person to get up and walk away a couple times and say, remember, we da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. And I think it's real valuable that if you have your mind on the rules and you keep coming back to the rules, then the emotional outbursts are kind of predicted and you don't get upset about them. You're like, yeah, of course he exploded because I said that. Let me help him get back.
And I feel like even with our kids, one of the things that we do with our kids if we're having a real big behavior problem is we write a contract, and they help us set the terms of the contract and the consequences. So you know going into it that if I am taking your video games for a day, you know why. It's very clearly written down. And I can say, per our contract. And they're like,
well,
I mean, but it's the same kind of principle.
Yeah. Yep.
And so here's something, and Julie, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. How easy is it when you have a conflict, when your person is pretending like there's no conflict here? We're fine. Everything's fine. Why are you making a thing out of a thing? It's not a thing. When do you push? How far do you push? What if you're not getting a lot of what?
All right, do not push. That is the wrong answer.
Why I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, she can't answer.
She can?
Can she? I don't know how Facebook works.
You not see her messages? You can't?
Nope. I'm in Hawaii. No, I'm in Hawaii. I can't see messages from South Carolina.
But I can. And so she was engaging,
cool.
and that's why I was bringing it up.
Oh.
So if you have someone who you're feeling like you need to have a discussion with, when do you rock the boat?
So, is she going to answer, or can I answer you? Okay. So here's the thing: is if someone's stonewalling you, right, then you cannot break through that wall. If you break through that wall, you've shattered everything, right? What you say is, I understand that you don't think there's a problem here. I, however, do, and this is the cause. I mean, and this is the problem I want to work on, the business case. Logistics, dropping kids off at school. You find something that's measurable and observable and say, this is what's happening because we're not having a conversation about it. Let's schedule 90 minutes. That's the sign to have the meeting before
Yep.
the meeting, to set the ground rules and to inform the partner, the business colleague, whatever, that we're having a conversation, whether you want one or not, because you're in this relationship. It's important to me, and I see a problem, and you're going to agree that this is that we see an observable behavior that's harming the family or that's harming the business. We're going to have a conversation about that. So it's very important not to try to kick the wall down and force a conversation on your terms. That is the opposite of psychological safety. That is a power play in itself. And you've got to respect the other person and say, I know this is going to be difficult, but we have to have a conversation. We're going to schedule it. It's 90 minutes, no phones, no digital devices, no power plays, no walkaways. We're focused on this particular issue. I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And
Oh, and it really helps to point at their eye when you're saying it.
no,
Like,
no,
no.
no.
Blah, 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 blah.
So Adam and I went through a lot of this. How do we have conversations? And you know, Adam, that I changed my approach with how I did that years ago. What did I do right?
Yes. You modeled healthy behavior. What you did really, really well was, let's take a case in point. I come home from a late night where I said I was going to be home at 8 o'clock, and then you get a text message at 9 saying I'm staying out, and then midnight rolls around, you still haven't heard from me, and I come, into the house, and you would explode, and I wouldn't remember any of it, and you would work yourself up, and then we would have a really unhealthy week, right, coming up. What you ended up doing was modeling the behavior. So you model the behavior of, I accept me. Carrie accepts herself. I am solid and fantastic and wonderful no matter what this other person in my life is doing. And this is not a reflection on me. This isn't a value statement on me. I am who I am. And because I am who I am, I now have the ability to love this guy no matter what he's doing if I choose to. Right? And you chose to love me, and you chose to accept yourself. And by that way, having enough power to choose to accept me gave me a off-ramp from the crazy train. I was able to kind of drift towards you, and you pulled me out of that chaos by doing nothing more than loving yourself and providing acceptance to me. It was fantastic. You're a rock star. I wish I was near you. I want a hug now.
Well, I'm especially mushy right now because you're out of town. So I mean, that's not fair. Julie's question was, yes, Adam, she agreed with everything that you said, but usually he agrees and then nothing changes. So, in the business model for what we're doing with this program, they say that you have to form a plan. And so the next part of the actual conflict table conversation is forming a plan, writing it down, making those goals measurable. So that really did change a lot of how Adam and I were doing life back in the day when we decided to really get back on the goals and mission train. And that's kind of what we used as our true north every time. Is this bringing us closer to our goals and our mission? And by writing them down somewhere, it was helpful.
So those are two slightly different things, goals and missions, right? And having written down.
I think it's where
but in the middle of that conflict,
you're going to be while you get there.
Sure. But I think to Julie's point, though, you just have a great conversation, and I said, fine, I agree, we'll change. I'll change. And then you guys walk away and everything's fine, and then nothing changes. And you made the point, well, you don't walk away when they say, fine, I'll change. That's when you get out a pen and paper and you say, great, what does that look like? How would you like me to measure you? What does it look like? How do I help? And it's not one person. If it's just one person saying, I'm going to do all the changing, then that's one-sided, and that's not a successful conflict.
Or it's a passive-aggressive payment. Sure, whatever
Yeah.
you say, honey.
Yeah. So, hey, yeah, if fine, you win, I'll do the thing, right? Because typically it's always a two-sided thing, right? And it's never going to be one person has to change behavior and then everything is better. That builds resentment and anger. You've got to give and take. You got to give and take. You got to give and take. And even if it's like, you know what, honestly, you've got 5 things that you need to do and I only have 1 thing, that's fine, right? You don't keep score like that. What you do is you say, really all it takes is both people to say, I own some kind of ownership in this conflict. Like let's take dropping kids off, for example. Let's pretend you can't do your cardio dance blast and you can't do your career because you have to drop the kids off every morning. And I keep promising I'm going to do it, but then I keep doing other things. I keep traveling. I keep doing whatever, right? If all I say is fine, I won't travel ever again, and I will always take the kids to school so you can always do your career, that is a fail, right? So that's kind of what I mean, that it can't just be one person at the end of the conflict saying, this is what I'm going to do. It's really got to be a two-player game.
Yeah, and just to, even at the end of it, how do you get what you need? So.
Force.
Well, so let's wrap this up. We're probably running close to time here. Next week we are doing something a little exciting, a little different than what we
what are we
done.
doing?
And I'm not real sure how to tag her on here. Maybe I can figure out how to do it when I actually finish up the video. But we had a fantastic interview with Sadie, who is a member of our group this week, and she has allowed us given us the go ahead and post that. And so it's going to be Meet the Members Monday tomorrow, and you guys.
Well, no. We sent it. Nope. We sent it to get professionally edited, so it will not be ready on Monday.
Week, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Someday this week we will get to see the interview with Sadie, which is awesome and fun. And I just love the idea.
It might be Find a Friend Friday rather than Meet a Member Monday.
But I just think it's so cool to get to hear everybody's stories and learn what everybody's actually doing, and so that should be really exciting. I think that's the good thing, right? Like we get to see the ways in which we're different, but the ways in which we really relate. And that's the cool thing about WLE.
It is. And she was so much fun. It was great. And we look forward.
Yeah, she's going to take my children forever.
So guess who we get to interview this week? David and Ella.
Yay! Good, Ella, David. That's exciting. I'm very excited about that. That'll be awesome. And we're gonna start sending out. What is it that you do, Adam? Calendly.
Witchcraft.
We'll do that. We'll send out of some sort at some point. And if you are interested in being interviewed and having that posted on our post or on our private group, we can work that out. We'd love to have an interview with you because they really are a lot of fun, and it's just us getting to hang out with you, just you and Adam and me and your spouse. If you can make that happen, that's great fun too. It's just basically a double date on a Zoom call.
Yeah, like a short one for 30 minutes.
Not too terrible. But you'll kind of get an idea what that looks after we post the one from Sadie. So, Adam, what time is your flight tonight?
I am leaving in about 6 hours. So I'm going to get a dinner in, and then I'll head over to the Kona airport. Then I will see you Monday night around 10 p.m. I've got about a 20-hour travel day coming up, starting in 6 hours.
Yeah, that's the part I
LAX
in
Atlanta.
Hawaii being super far away.
It's okay, girl. I'm flying first class. I'll be fine.
Got to use those points, right?
Yeah, those points called dollar
Yeah.
bills. Yeah, what?
All
Okay.
right. Well, we are done.
I love you. I
Thank
miss
you,
you.
honey. Miss you. We'll I'll see you tomorrow, and we will see you guys throughout the week. We love your interactions. Keep it up, and we will be back for a live next Sunday. Bye, guys.
Bye. How do I get out?